welcome along once again to the Cardiff City phone-in. Thanks to Steve Wiggy, for looking after the show in my absence last week. On the show tonight, we got Steve Thomas and yet another part of his collection of Cardiff City regalia, which stunning amount of kit he's got there.
Thank you,
Nigel
Steve.
Blue, nice to see you again, Nigel. Thank you for coming in.
Cheers, Steve.
And first time on the show is Aled Hopkins, who is he's on his way to being a sports journalist. Just graduated from Cardiff Met. In my old job, you would have been the enemy, Cardiff Met, but there we go. I don't care anymore. And great to have you on the show, and a lifelong City fan, and a bit of youth, a bit of glamour and youth on the show, which is nice,
Certainly not glamour, no, and not so much youth anymore. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
And it's always good to get a first timer on. Thanks to David Collins for putting me in touch. Steve, I'll come to you first. I'm guessing you were there on the weekend.
I wasn't actually, but no. But
you didn't? Okay. I was in Spain, so so I didn't catch much of it. I saw the highlights, but I was watching the stats as they went through the game, and they were kind of shockingly poor, really. I don't know. I guess you've seen quite a bit of it, Steve. Now it just seemed like because the perennial, we've almost become the new Swansea. Sorry to say that. It's all possession, and we don't do anything with it. Like fiddling around with it, playing around the park, dominating in terms of possession and passing and all the rest of it, but creating very little. And I don't think we had one single shot of note on target in the entire match.
We didn't. I think on the subject of stats, actually, I think Bolton had 16 shots. Which was actually an improvement on the last two home games that we won, ironically. I think we had 26 shots against us, against both Leyton Orient and against the subsequent home game we won against Reading as well. So that was actually an improvement. However, it seemed to me, when I could see that once again, we are getting into some good positions going forward, getting into that last third, and we do have an opportunity to get the ball over to Salek, who is quite a lump in the middle and can do things, very, very powerful forward. But unless you get the ball to him onto his head or into his feet, we're not going to score goals. So again, I think we've got the players that can do it, but why do they have to cut back in, get into a position to cross the ball and not cross it?
Yeah, and I saw. I'll come on to Nigel in a second, because Nigel came up with some fairly scary stats today. I'll have to be a fan of stats, being a sports journal, of course. But it's kind of and it's very old school. But Steve was talking about why don't we? And I'll suggest it again. I always suggest it all the time. Why don't we consider playing? Probably got two of the best strikers in the league. Why don't we scare a few teams? Why don't we change it around? Why don't we do something different? It just seems to me. I watched a bit of Premiership football yesterday, and it seems like they're all playing the same. It's like a fashion. This thing of playing from the back, and this all these different modern day techniques and whatever, which are all groovy and all the rest of it. But in my world, stick the ball in the box and stick it in the back of the net. Don't you think we could try something different, Steve? I mean, Cardiff City and all other teams, I suppose, are quite predictable. Lots of 1-0s and 0-0s going on and all the rest of it. It just seems it's all become so technical and kind of sterile, Shouldn't someone try something a bit different? Mr. Thomas.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Right. Yes, I think we've got to be able to mix it up. I think there was quite a good analysis I saw after the weekend that the way we're playing is more suited to higher up the league. In that, if you look at the teams we're playing against, they are effectively sitting back on us. Burton did an absolute number on us. They sat back and they hit us on the break, and in the end they scored a somewhat lucky goal. But if you don't get the ball in the box, then you're not going to score a goal. We didn't really show that we had a way to change it. We seem to be set up far too much for the way we're playing. The possession-based game, which doesn't really equate to much if you don't do anything when you get forward. So yes, I agree with you entirely, Steve. We do need to perhaps mix it up a bit more. I remember when Eddie May in the 92-3 team said that he would frequently have to mix it up, because if you're playing against teams who you're not going to get through playing football, then you have to go more direct, and perhaps setting it up more for the opposition that could be better.
Well, if I bring Nigel in there, then and we'll come on to Chris's comment about Wrexham in a bit, because obviously we're going to cover that. And Steve's got a nice angle on that, actually, which I'll come back to on it. But the stats, do you want to repeat the stats you mentioned? I just looked just now. I mean, it starts off in August. We go from August, which is phenomenal, to now.
Yeah, well, it's exactly that, isn't it? So we took 16 points off the first 6 games, and it's been 10 off 7 since, which is why we're top, because that terrific start we had. Where we were playing football, it was on another level to anything we'd seen in the last sort of 4 years or so with Cardiff. But increasingly, I think it's become more turgid without the GI in it, if you know what I mean. It has become it has become painting by numbers football, hasn't it? And if I'm honest, I'm even starting to get a little bit of Omar Reza vibes recently, because what we're seeing currently is 4 or 5 changes every game. We can't predict the starting 11, and if we choose to start an 11, it's not going to match the one that BBM is selecting. And it was strange on the substitutes one. We dropped the goalkeeper. Thankfully, nothing happened to Trott on the weekend. Yeah. Robertson, who he's not wanted to know for 2 months, and he's been very conservative in what he's had to say about his abilities as a footballer, what's going on in the club. We still don't know the full story there, but all of a sudden, from nowhere, he starts. Wouldn't even put him in an under-21 team while he's trying to supposedly get fitness. And I'd love to understand about all this intensity in training, because the last couple of weeks, I don't think we've seen that intensity in the games. And that was the problem on the weekend, wasn't it? It's passing football without a purpose. It's side and back, and they're almost like, I'm not saying it's being coached out of them, but there is no instinctiveness in their play at the moment. There's no one. Ruben Colwell's tried to do things, and there's a bit of an over-reliance on him. He's a player who couldn't get 90 minutes last season, and now he's getting 90 minutes every game. And I think there's a little bit of burnout going on there if they're not too careful with him. The one striker thing, and I do feel for Salek, how he scored 5 goals this season despite getting next to no service, is it? There's no crosses going in. We've got a 6'5" striker. If we had someone like Ryan Giles, who we had a couple of years ago, he'd probably be in double figures by now. But there's no one feeding many service. There's no one around him. We were getting players into the box a few weeks ago when we beat the likes of Plymouth 4-0, and what we were doing then. We're not doing that so much now. They're all playing around the box. The midfield is, David Turnbull, how he gets to start every game, I don't know. Anyway, I've ranted a bit. The blessing is we're still top of the league, and there's a few things to sort out there, and there are things we can put right, because we're a better team than Bolton. We're just not playing. We're just not doing things correctly at the moment.
We're a better team than Bolton, probably pound for pound with the players we got. But I did think Bolton played really well. They definitely played at pace.
What I would say, Steve, though, is that it was a simple game for them, because they just put players behind the ball, knowing that we're not hurting them. Sooner or later, and it happened so many times at the weekend, we played a loose or a bad pass, and when they had it, we had players out of position, and all of a sudden they're breaking forward at speed. And that's the one thing we didn't have at the weekend. There wasn't that pace or intensity, another energy level. And Bolton were just finding that time and again. They just had to wait for us to make a passing error. And sure enough, every time we knocked it about 20 passes, going nowhere, the move would inevitably break down. Not because Bolton were winning the ball half the time. It was because we were just playing a sloppy pass. There was a lot of sloppiness on the weekend. And in the end, a 0-0, no one deserved to. They didn't deserve to win that game. Cardiff probably didn't deserve to lose that game, but it was our sloppiness that cost us in the end.
Well, they had, I think it was 17 attempts actually on goal to our 4. So. You could argue that they probably just about deserved it. But just to put a bit of balance before I come across to come from slightly different angle, come across to Aled, is I know our regular viewers, some of them are fairly, have certain opinions on things, and they might think we're just being negative for the sake of it. We're top of the league. We're top of the league. We're right up there. We got a good chance of staying there. We haven't had a great run, but things could be a lot worse. And also when we talk about, I think City are quite predictable, but I think most teams in the league are quite predictable. They all seem to pretty well play a very similar brand of football, apart from the lower end where they put the back all up and hope for the best. So Aled, as the youngster on the panel, because we were talking earlier, you've only known success until the last couple of seasons in your life as a City fan. Are you at all concerned about the kind of slip in form? Have we become too predictable? Has everyone got us sussed, I wonder?
I do get frustrated at times. I do agree that we can put the ball in the box more, and there are opportunities to do so, especially when we've got Salek on the field. I can see what Brian Barry Murphy is trying to do. Obviously, he's come from Man City. I think a lot of the time we try and get the ball out to the winger. We've got an overlap in fullback, and they bring in one of the attacking midfielders like Colwell or Turnbull into, and they've almost formed like a triangle, and they're trying to draw the fullback towards where the ball is and get a ball in behind, so that the overlapping fullback or the winger or whoever it is in that triangle can then get a bit of space and get a low cross in to Salek or something like that. And it is your classic trying to walk it in Man City football. And you mentioned earlier just before we came on air, like how Brian Barry Murphy's such a stat man, and he'll have his analytics, especially when he was at Man City, of those type of chances will have like a higher percentage of conversion rate because they're effectively tap-ins, aren't they? And Yusuf Salek, I love him, but he's not going to create a goal. He's going to be in the right place at the right time,
exactly,
and he's going to finish it. So I think they're trying to play to his strengths when he's there. But I do agree that I think at times, you hear it in the crowd when we're at home, you do need to get the ball in the box to somebody like Salek, because in this division, he is a handful, and he's going to cause defenders a lot of problems.
Yeah, and there's a couple of good comments in here. When the one that Jonathan Mordecai just put on there, actually, it is a stranger tactic for me, because Salek 6'5" was Nigel said up front, and then we play the ball to feet, and then we got Robbo up front. We put the crosses in. Seems to be a bit mad, and also the point about pace again being made by Martin Ryan, the lack of pace in the front three, not beating their men consistently, and I know I say it all the time. I know I do. But, for me, if we've got a left foot, be on the left. We've got a right foot, be on the right. Put the ball in the box. We've got a chance of scoring goals. We've got some good players, It just seems to me, I'm the same with, I'm totally off topic, but, clothing, my clothing lifestyle is a charity shop, wherever that might be, and I don't care, but, it'll do. I'll check in on and wear my shoes till they fall apart. I don't care, I don't hold with this fascination with this is the way it is now. This is the fashion. This is the way we got to do things. Mix it up a bit, take people by surprise. What about the point of pace there, Alex?
Yeah, I think we're okay in times. I mean, Willock's got a decent bit of pace. Ashford, when he comes on, I've not really seen a hell of a lot of Kellyman since he's come in. I don't really know.
I think he will come good. Myself.
Yeah, no, there's quality there just in terms of his pace. Yeah, maybe we could do with a little bit more pace. But I think, when you play possession-based football, it's as it seems we're trying to do, it might be less important than when you're trying to play on the counter-attack and you're trying to spring people through the thirds and move, as they say, moving through the thirds.
So you're a young man, you can talk all this stuff, he's a 6, he's an 8, la 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 la, where's the centre backs gone? Where's the wing halves gone? What's going on in this game?
No, trust me, I do love it all. My favourite centre halves that we've had are head it and kick it centre halves. Ben Turner, Sean Morrison, Sol Bamba, head it and kick it centre halves.
Well said, young man. Yeah, good. Okay, well, we'll come back to you. We got loads to talk about. If I want to just say to you, Steve, a bit of a concern with Joel. Joel Bagan picking up the knock, and then his first thing, it's a bit of a concern, and secondly, we're a little bit surprised with the way he moved things around at the back when Joel had to go off. Yes,
I was indeed. No, I'm concerned about that. I've been concerned about throughout. A lot of people have been saying, and I think it's almost like the elephant in the room, that yes, we shipped a load of players out at the start of the season, which we needed to, and we only got 3 in, which means we've got a good squad, a good quality squad. However, when injuries start kicking in, we're going to be suffering. So he's going to have to shuffle things around with Joel not being available. Also, I've read this afternoon that Willock's not likely to play tomorrow as well, so that's going to cut down on our options on the wings as well. I think just to go back and make a point further what we were saying before about changing things. On occasions, I've been in the ground, particularly at home games early. What they seem to be constantly practicing are the balls back across the box. They had some success with the second goal against Reading when it's pulled back and Salek put it in, but they're practicing that constantly with Salek going to the near post and Ruben going to the far post. They're practicing that an awful lot. But where we've looked most dangerous when we were behind against both Reading and against Leyton Orient was when we made the changes and we brought Capaccio on the right hand side to play with Kellerman, and we suddenly started getting forward. And same with Isaac Davis coming on the other side as well. I think we need to save these players to be impact, because what I think has helped us and almost to get out of jail, apart from the fantastic saves of Nathan Trott, of course, is when we make our changes, the other team doesn't react to it very quickly. They sort of got to take 10, 15 minutes to work out what we're going to be doing differently. And that's when we've really benefited. I mean, we were I think last year we've been dead and buried. Went 3-2 down against Leyton Orient. We'd have been dead and buried. Then we got 2 goals in a minute because we made those changes. And again, I think that's what you've got to concentrate on is being able to mix it up a bit.
Yeah, so that's a good point, and well made, because Capaccio, I think he's Nigel. I think he's had three assists. I think anyone in the team's had more assists than him, and I see him as at least a wing back, if not even a winger. More than another out and out defender. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he's doing really well, and that was one of the things that surprised me, because last week he was probably man of the match for us, wasn't he? He got 2 assists, which turned that game around against Reading. This week he's on the bench, and then Chambers probably had one of his best games last week. He was on the bench. And then you got Robinson scored 5 goals in 5 games, and you bring him on for the last 4 or 5 minutes. So I think he's got to sooner or later get to a settled side. And understand with youngsters, you can't expect them to perform every week, 90 minutes, 90 in and out every week. But there is a problem with him. He said he didn't want to tinker with the team, but there is tinkering going on at the moment, and I think the performances are being impacted with it, because it's a different midfield duo every week. It's a different defence most weeks recently, and hopefully we'll get to a settled position. But it does worry me that we're seeing 4 or 5 changes every week, and players moved about, and brought in when, like Robertson was, when he's been ignored for weeks. People dropped after putting man of the match performances in the previous week, and I think he's got to take a look at what is going on there, and how do we get to a settled side? It's a long season and a long way to go, and I'm sure we're still going to be up there all season long. But there are just signs that we recently the performances, I would say September and so far this month, have been a real dip from what we saw in the first few weeks, and we've got to find a way of addressing that.
I think one of the things, Nigel, I'm looking at City recently, is the way we play. We're kind of, we're lacking kind of manpower in midfield, if you like, because we have that attacking kind of mindset, and we're quickly overrun in midfield. I find when the team breaks with the ball,
Steve, it was the one thing I said also along with the recruitment. They needed to get a dog in midfield, didn't we? Someone who's going to bite, someone who's going to be a real leader on the pitch. And I mentioned on the show last week, when we've been in this division the previous couple of times, we've had the likes of Paul Ramsey, we've had Alan Gunnison, people like that, leaders on the pitch that will make that Andy Legg. It's that sort of player that we seem to be missing at the moment. That I've mentioned it a couple of times on the show before. Max Power of Bradford, when they beat us down here last month. His performance, leading everyone on the pitch, he was fighting for every ball, telling everyone what to be doing around him. And you need some of that in League One. It's not going to be this beautiful passing, 70% football, and defences are just going to stand around and admire what you do. You've got to get stuck in at this level as well. And I do think we're lacking that type of player at the moment. Robertson's got a bit more bite in him, but the rest of them are just. The rest of them are just nice midfielders, aren't they? Wintel's got a little bit of a streak in him. Turnbull, for me, he's just completely anonymous. I forget he's in the games. I think he's one of the players they've got to try and look to move on in January to try and freshen it up in the middle. He's starting every week for us at the moment. I honestly think he's like the Emperor's new clothes. I cannot see what he's offering at all.
Yeah. Well, Alan, what David Turnbull, or Di Turnbull, of course, he's been christened. So this is the rival in Wales. Played for Celtic. He was a kind of goal scorer midfielder for Celtic. Known for his John Buchanan type shot and all the rest of it. I think he desperately needs a goal. Is one thing. But I suppose because he operates pretty well, and they say it's a three-man midfield, but Ruben pushes on really. So, you got those two. And somebody said earlier, is it to do with the fact you think with, for example, Robertson and maybe Turnbull as well? Trying to find the right peg, put the right, what is their actual role? What are they to do in that midfield? Maybe Turnbull still finding his place.
Yeah, I think the jury is out on Turnbull with me.
He's been very disappointing, hasn't he?
Yeah, since he's come in, and I think you're right. I don't really know what his best role is in that midfield. Personally, I would rather Joel Colwell in that midfield alongside. I want Ruben in the 10. I heard pre-season a lot of people were saying Ruben should play deeper based on his performance at Aston Villa last year. In the cup where he did play a little bit deeper. But I like him in the 10. And I think Saturday in the first half, he showed what he could do in that role. He was moving into those spaces, picking up the ball, and it didn't work on that occasion on Saturday. But I think having Joel and Ruben in the midfield together, obviously they're brothers. They've got that connection with each other as well. They've got that little bit of extra, being on the same page. I think Wintle is a 6 if you're going to coin a modern term. I think he's better in that deep line role. Yeah. I was really happy to see Robertson back on Saturday. I think he's probably our best, box to box central midfielder.
Good player.
I think he gets on the ball. He turns a defense into attack. He looks to get the ball on the half turn and look to start attacks. I think he's got good feet. He dribbles. I think he's crucial for us. So whatever BBM is, whatever's gone on with Barry Murphy and that, he's obviously had to prove himself to the new manager. And it looks like he's done enough now in training to get to a level where Barry Murphy's happy to put him in the game. And he's now got something to prove to Barry Murphy, which I think is a good thing, really.
Okay, and thanks, Alan. And Peter's comment there, Steve, dominated on the first half, no end result, freezing the way end. Just needed someone to warm us up. Sounds always saying, give us a goal. The old days. I remember a trip to Northampton. I think might have been. Were you there, Nigel, on Boxing Day? We got battered 4-0 or 4-1.
Yeah.
That was typical.
We've seen plenty. I've seen plenty of last minute defeats on the road.
Was it Graham Mosley got sent off and we had Mike Ford going goal? Was that the game?
I don't think it was that one. I don't remember that. I think
it's another time we let 4 goals in at Northampton. Then
I think we missed a penalty, and one of the stewards looked a bit like Lionel Richie's. They were all saying hello to him behind the goal. There's a comment here. You might go in your book, Steve. There's a comment here about which is an interesting one, isn't it? Yusuf Salak. I mean, for me, he's an excellent striker. Just needs service. And my personal opinion, he tends to be in the right place at the right time. Going back to that Capaccio pass, he's right onto it. Get the ball in the box. He's get others on the head. He can use both feet. He scores goals. He's a real handful. I like him, and I think he just needs better service. But because obviously we lost on the weekend, and we've had a less impressive run, Steve. Then the fans, the worm starts to turn. So, what's your comment about what Lee's saying there about Salah?
I think a lot of them are a bit abysmal in the warm-ups before the game. In fact, the safest place to stand is probably in the back of the goal they're kicking into, because that's the last place the ball's going to go to. But I think make your mistakes in the warm-up is what I'm always saying. Also, I'd like to come back as well. I think again it has worked quite a lot when we do change to go into up front when we have Salek on with Robinson, as was illustrated particularly against Lake Norient. That's a very it's a good way to change it and become a bit more positive. However, we do tend to look a bit more open at the back, shall we say. I notice Wrexham's manager today has made a comment that Cardiff are susceptible, as was illustrated on Saturday with the goal, and a number of times, we are susceptible to giving the ball away in transition. We're susceptible to giving the ball away as we're coming forward, which then leaves a number of people out of position because we are moving forward. which then leaves the opposition with a chance. Now, I thought that the goal, it was a fantastic strike into the top corner. However,
it was a great goal.
It was a great goal. However, he wasn't closed down. There was
No.
nobody in his face. Nobody sort of rushing out, try and block the shot. If you're going to stand 5 yards back, then you're going to give him a chance to hit a part of the goal, I think. So I think that there's a lot wrong with it. And I think tomorrow night, we're going to come on to that later, obviously, but I think tomorrow night we may be in a better position because we're likely to be playing a team that is going to be playing a different type of football to what we used to be playing, particularly with the lower teams in this division.
Yeah. Steve, just want to say on that, that it was a fantastic goal. You can't, deny that was an amazing finish. That's the fourth time in a month that a player has scored that type of goal against us. Bradford did, Bolton, Reading, and Orient. They've all scored goals from just outside the box. Common denominator, we haven't got to play near them. They've got the time to look up and shoot. But also, that's the sort of thing we should be doing. If a Cardiff player gets the ball in that position, they're just going to turn sideways and look to spread it wide, aren't they? They're not looking to have a pot shot now and again. And we need to do a little bit more of that. But yeah, you're right. We're not closing down play well enough when we lose the ball. And it's given the players these opportunities to score those fantastic goals. But that's the sort of thing our players need to be doing when we get forward as well.
You're right, Nigel. It does seem a long time ago that we opened the scoring against Plymouth with Ryan Wintle putting the ball in the top corner.
Yeah. That was a great goal. Talking about good goals.
I think it was Turnbull as well who was closing Cozy Dewberry, or didn't close Cozy Dewberry down, wasn't it? And I looked at it again, and it's a tired. You could tell he's tired at that point, and he doesn't get out to it quick enough, and he pays the price because it was a worldie, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
So again, that what you're saying there comes back. Continued selection of Turnbull. Maybe it's good man management. I don't know. Maybe he just knows as a player in there he's trying to bring him out. But there's a comment here which I'll stick with you, Aled. Yeah, I like this from Graham. Yeah. Now we're talking, Graham. Yeah. What about Trott, NG, Fish, Lawler, Bagan, Capaccio, Kellyman, Robinson, Davis, and Robinson and Salek? Let's go old school. What was the name of that guy in that film again? Let's go 4-4-2.
Yeah, I think our best centre half pairing is Fish and Lawler.
Yes,
I think that's
good point.
That's been cemented. I think Oshaw, there's clearly talent there, but he's got a mistake in him.
He's been binned, hasn't he? Effectively, he's been moved out. For now, hasn't he?
He's proved that. I'm just looking at NG. Where are you going to play him on the left and Capaccio on the left?
I think it's NG on the right, Fish and Lawler in the middle, Bagan on the left, and pushing Capaccio forward a bit with Davis on the other flank.
I would like to see, especially in a cup game, Robinson and Salek playing together and just see how that works. Especially, we haven't scored. We haven't scored in the last game. We haven't had a shot on target. Let's go for it. Let's try and be a little bit more attacking. Okay, if we lose in the Carabao Cup, not the end of the world. We'll concentrate on the league. But so I would like to see him experiment with Salek and Robinson. But then I think you do have to change. You have to change the style of play with that. Then I think you can't be relying on Salek, trying to walk the ball into the net and set Salek up in the 6-yard box. You've got to, look to probably play off Salek and hopefully he gets knockdowns for Robinson or can knock down to Colwell or whoever's playing in that midfield role, and they can set the wingers and Robinson free. So it probably would need a different style of play, but I wouldn't mind seeing it.
Yeah, just to change it up now and again, because if particularly if Bacon's injured, that gives us a bit of a worry because we don't really have a backup left back. Perry and G's played there before and done all right actually.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility. But again, I'd like to back you further forward. By the way, talking about tomorrow night, this gentleman here, Mr. Granfield, would say keep the faith. I'm sure he would. Yeah. And but he talks then about Willock going past his fullback. Let's have a go tomorrow. Otherwise, it could be a long night. I hope those players are up for the game. So, Aled, talking about your sports journalism stuff, you recently did a really well-made documentary. Congratulations, by the way, about a certain guy. What made you think they'd be interested in some City fans? I don't know. Some geezer called Vincent Tan.
Yes, yeah. So my final project for university was a short documentary, a mini documentary, and I did it on the Tan era. It's been 15 years now that Vincent Tan has owned the club, and obviously as City fans, we know what's gone on in that time. It's been a pretty crazy period with the rebrand in 2012, and then the Emiliano Sala disaster, and then the Peter Whittingham's tragic passing just before COVID, and Sol Bamba last summer as well. It's just been a crazy period that is completely unprecedented, I think, and hasn't really been seen by the likes of many football clubs, especially in British football. He's been one of the most divisive owners in the last few decades or so.
Polarized support, really, hasn't he?
Yeah, and even the likes of Chansiri now at Sheffield Wednesday, that they've obviously got him out, and he's been right up there with Vincent Tan as bad owners go. I think the point of this, and it was interesting hearing the perspectives of the people in it. It has been up and down. There has been good, and there has been bad. So you can't say he's probably been as bad a villain as Chansiri has been at Sheffield Wednesday, but the rebrand was just, I can't think of anything I've ever seen like that before.
Did you think at the time he was ridiculous as a young person? Did you think he was crazy?
Oh yeah, I was I couldn't believe it. I think I was on holiday actually when I first heard about it, and on a cruise in Italy, and it was on the news in that country. The Cardiff City is on the world news because it was that unprecedented and that bigger story. So when I pitched it to Joe, my course leader, he said, yeah, absolutely, there's a story there, and it's dying to be told. And it's on YouTube now. It's called Tan, an Era Like No Other. So if you want to watch that, any comments or anything, I've had really good feedback on it so far. I'm really proud of it, and so any support on it.
It's relevant as well that your course leader is called Mr. Towns because he's a Swansea fan.
He is, yeah.
Ali, I didn't realise that. I was going to say, Ali, I didn't realise that was your documentary or your video. I saw it last week, and I shared it with loads of City fans and on a couple of Facebook groups and things like that. What a fantastic piece! Well, congratulations. That was really good, and quite emotional in parts too. Things that we've lived through over the years, and it was and people I shared it with, the feedback on it was overwhelmingly positive, and I didn't realise that was yours. So what a great piece of work. Well done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was when I was editing it, especially I was putting in the there's a little bit when we go into the Peter Whittingham stuff, and I start that bit off with James Fox on the pitch singing the "Here's to You" Peter Whittingham song, and that got me a bit choked up. That did, because he meant everything to us, didn't he? And then managed to find a soundbite of Salah when he was in the plane and he said, "I don't know what's going on. I'm scared." And it really hits home. And I had to sort of, whilst I was editing that, I had to take a minute and just sort of compose myself a little bit, because obviously it got me really, even doing it myself.
Cardiff City are a soap opera like no other club. I mean, some people say it's a circus, don't they? But there is always something happening with this club. It's uncanny, and it's been like that all my lifetime following them. There's always been these crazy events that don't seem to happen to many other clubs in the same way they happen to this club. It is bizarre.
That's exactly what I had. One of my contributors was Glenn Williams, the Wales Online Cardiff City correspondent. Huge thank you to Glenn. He was really generous with his time. He's a busy man, and that's exactly what he said. He said, as a journalist covering the club, it's never dull. It's there's something always happening. So it keeps him in a job anyway. I think he's he's pretty happy to be that. But yeah, as you said, it's something all the time, isn't it?
Have you seen it, Steve?
Yes, I have, and I just wanted to. I think it was Nigel's link that I followed, so thanks for that, Nigel. But yeah, I said before we started, I thought it was absolutely excellent, really, really good documentary, and it sort of brought it home. I'd like to say, when I found out about the rebrand, I genuinely thought it was a wind-up. when he said we're going to. I had to check the date. It wasn't April the 1st. We were actually changing to red. But yeah, you're right about Salah. And interesting. You mentioned both Peter Whittingham and Sol Bamba, of course, because something that I'm not sure if you mentioned in the documentary, but of course, the first game Neil Warnock was in charge home to Bristol City, we won 2-1 with the goal scored by Peter Whittingham and Sol Bamba. So it's not that long ago, and neither of them are still around.
Yeah. I knew Bamber had scored. I'd forgotten that Whittingham had scored that night as well. But yeah, Bamber as well. You know, I interviewed Glenn. He knew him. He knew him personally. He knew the family, and it was he was, you know, he came back to the club, didn't he, in a coaching role with Lamucci, I think. And I think the overarching thing I've heard about Sol Bamba and the rhetoric, especially from Glenn, he said he's just the nicest man you'll ever meet in your life. Always smiling, always laughing, always interested in Glenn was saying, you know, he was interested in my side of it and what I thought, and he was like, why do you care? You know, you're only a journalist. But he was always so personable and so kind, and that was, you know, that's the real tragedy. He was a warrior on the football field. We all loved him, but it's the tragedy of losing, you know, a human like that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, he's brought us a lot of memories. One of my favourite memories of Sol Bamba was when he scored, and when we played Brighton in the Premier League. It was 1-1 going into the last few minutes, and we were battering Brighton because they'd gone down to 10 men, and he scored the winner, and he chucked his shirt on the ground and ran over to the crowd. And he said the referee went up. He put his shirt back on very quickly, hidden by the players. And he said the referee went up to him and said, "Did you take your shirt off?" And he said, "No."
It's funny because I got so many memories of Sol, and I tend not to want to mix or know footballers, you know, these days. You know, they're icons to me, and I don't. But Sol was someone that did always sort of catch up with fans. But when I had my last milestone birthday, my 21st, obviously, Sol was really ill up at Middlesbrough at the time, and that was when he was really having a poorly time. And my daughter was friends with Sol's sort of wife and family, and she got a message to Sol to say, can you do a little video message for Nigel? And he actually had to get up out of bed. He'd been in bed ill all day to get up and record this video message for me, saying once a bluebird, always a bluebird. And it was just incredible. He didn't have to do that, but that was the man he was, wasn't it?
Yeah, a mark of the man indeed. And we've paid tribute to him quite a few times on the show, and quite rightly so. And Wits, of course. Steve, just to say to you, have you been pleased recently, and do you think actually that this is happening, that we're starting to stick with a fixed central defensive pairing? You know, do you see Fish and Lawler basically be in the first pick now, and Osho totally out the picture? I guess he'll come back in again.
I do see those two as our best two. The goal line clearance that Fish did. And you see how heavily his leg was strapped up, but the goal line clearance he did,
what a fantastic
hang on against Reading. I was behind the goal in the Canton stand, and I didn't actually see what it happened. All I saw was the Reading player kick the ball past him. I thought goal, and all of a sudden the ball's come back because he's caught it on his heel. But one point I wanted to throw out for everybody watching, and as well as the fellas on here, of course, is it seemed to me that last season we did quite well, and we were much more sort of compact and organised at the back when we played Chambers in front of the centre backs. Now, I think if we've not got Lawler and Fish playing, should we perhaps have him in there as some insurance as opposed to Turnbull or Ryan Wintle?
Yeah, that's a good call. There was also somebody else mentioned earlier, not quite the same, but talking about the idea of Kellyman as a 10. You know, using what you've got and mix and match kind of thing. A question from Martin Ryan, Steve, is a good one. You know, if Begin was still on the field, I wonder if Cozy Dewberry would have scored. You know, would have had the space to it. We do miss him, don't we?
We do. And we've had other left backs. I remember Joe Bennett was particularly good at putting his body on the line, getting blocks in. I think basically, if somebody, Turnbull or whoever, had been 2 or 3 steps further forward, he would not have been able to pick his spot like he did. So as you said earlier on as well, Steve, he was looking tired by that time. I'm reminded when I was in Germany last year for the Euros, and I met a couple of the Tartan Army actually in Lucas Podolski kebab shop. But that's another story for another time. In Dusseldorf, in Dusseldorf.
Don't leave us hanging like that.
No. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, they were both Celtic fans, and they were absolutely very pleased that we'd signed Turnbull. So read into that what you will.
Yeah, well, Jeff Delacruz said he was a star player for Celtic. Sorry, Nudge.
Yeah, I was going to say, I did mention on here last week, he scored 25 goals in 100 games for Celtic, and 40 of them were sub. And yet, last Saturday was his 51st for Cardiff, and he scored one for us, which was a penalty. Celtic fans told me, I know people who are Celtic fans and watched him, and they said that he started on fire there and just seemed to lose his pace. So, and that's what we're seeing with when he plays for Cardiff, isn't he? He doesn't offer pace. He slows play all the time. Every time the ball goes to him, we almost come to a dead stop, and that's the challenge we got. But just talking a bit about the formation a minute ago, and Chambers in front of the back four, I think part of the conundrum with Cardiff is that BBM wants to have two wide men, doesn't he? He's got to have one hugging every touchline.
Yeah.
And that dictates that we've got to have the two in midfield and virtually how we line up. And there's part of me that's thinking, these wide men, they're not putting in quality crosses. They're not putting in enough crosses. Wouldn't we be better off just having one wide man and adjusting around that? Because I think that is part of the problem we've got, where we got two, at the moment, ineffective wingers, I would say. And when we get to January, hopefully we can bring in someone who can, really liven it up and offer a bit more than we're currently seeing. But I do think that is part of the current conundrum with Cardiff, that there's this obsession to have two wide men hugging the touchline. Ball's always got to be fed out to them, but because they haven't got the pace or sometimes the confidence or belief to take on and beat players, that's where we see them turning back, checking out, or coming inside and just curling the ball in. That is not really offering anything that Saleh can do a great deal with, because there's never pace on most of our crosses. And likewise with corners, corners this season have been really poor, haven't they? We used to be a really good set piece team, but we're just not that at all at the moment.
It's also it's weird how we've conceded so many goals recently. We scored quite a few, but we started conceding for a long time, wouldn't letting any in at all. There's a comment here which Nigel and Steve will particularly like, from Wales KTF. Who could that be? Over a Peter King or Barry Jones or even a Leslie? Well said. Excellent.
Yeah. Being old enough to remember that, yeah.
Aled remembers them.
Yeah, I'm afraid that one's gone over my head. Sorry.
I'm sure your grandfather would have told you about them, fellas.
Yeah.
Steve, who did Peter King get that amazing goal against? That incredible goal?
Middlesbrough,
yeah.
Yeah, Google that, Aled.
Oh, you'll have to have a look at that one, Aled. It is an unbelievable goal down at the Grange end at Lillian Park.
Just going back to your point there, Nigel, sorry. At the start of the season, we seem to be we were pinging balls cross field when we were switching the play often, and not many League One teams can do that. Not many League One teams have got the quality to do that, and I think that was the reason we had the two wingers hugging the touchlines, because we were able to play those cross field balls quite easily, and that was obviously the idea. I'm guessing is to stretch the back four and create avenues there. But we seem to have gone away from that a little bit in the last month or so. It was a little bit on Saturday. I saw it again, but at the start of the season, I was really impressed with the way we were switching the balls, and we seem to not be doing that as much now.
And what about the central midfield partnership? Because if the central if the central defensive partnership, I think we all for now agree, Fish and Lawler look really good together. And it's good that there's a bit of solidity, and they can build on that relationship by having some consistency there with them being picked. And then you get into the kind of 2/3 in front. But that's where I think we're still fine tuning, and we're still kind of getting it right. Who do you think at the moment would be your two in there with Ruben?
I would say Robertson and Joel Colwell. As I've mentioned there before, I think that connection that Ruben and Joel have is an intangible, really, that not many other teams are going to have two brothers in the same team who are very close in age. They've obviously gone through the academy together. They're going to have that understanding with each other and that connection. And I think Joel Colbert's a great player. I think he's earned.
He's going to be good, isn't he?
Yeah, he's earned his time. He's he puts himself about. He's flying into tackles. He's trying to create passes. And then Robertson, I think, is probably our best midfielder. If you're classing Ruben as an attacker, I think
he's a midfielder. I think he's a midfielder who pushes on, really, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's a number 10. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's I think box to box traditional central midfielder. I think Robertson's our best option. Yeah. So I think those would be my three. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna which almost leads us on to this, because I think Joel Colwell's going to start tomorrow myself. So this leads us on to this. So how do we see it going against Wrexham tomorrow night? They're desperate to get an academy going. I'd love for our youngsters to show them how it's done. Do you want to start on that one, Aled?
Yeah, I think it'll be a really, really good game. I think, for me, they've kind of, because we've gone down and they've gone up to the Championship, there's a kind of a, when this draw came out, I was like, that's the best possible draw. The best possible draw if we had them at home, but the best possible team to have drawn, because I think we kind of owe them that we're still, hang on a minute, we're still the bigger club. Even though we're, in a league below, and you've got,
we always will be.
Yeah. And you've got, they've obviously got their Disney money and all of that. Yeah. So I think it's a big game for us to sort of take them down a peg a little bit. And I think if our youngsters can do that, all the better, really. Yeah.
And Steve, of course, we managed to lose against Newport County the other week as well. So just throwing that one in the mix. What's your thoughts about you going up there tomorrow?
Yes, I'm going to Wrexham tomorrow night. Yeah. My thoughts are that there's been a debate, as I said, going on the 1927 Club WhatsApp group today about whether this is a derby. The conclusion coming out is it's not a derby. However, it's a very important game because we've got Welsh bragging rights involved. It's not a physical derby because Stoke City is a shorter trip to get there. For example, we'd never say that Stoke was a derby, but it's a clash between the north and the south. To pick up on your point, Steve, I think the point is there that class is permanent, form is temporary. So at the moment they're ahead of us, but they've not been ahead of us for a long time. They remind me a lot. They remind me a lot of Swansea when they went up through the leagues, in that they picked up a lot of players who were perhaps more towards the end of their career. And then when we all know what happened to Swansea when they all finished at the same time under Toshack, then they dropped like a stone. There were a number of players there. You got your Kiefers, who with the best will in the world is towards the end, moving towards the end of his career. I don't know how James McClain keeps going as well.
Still got something about him.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think tomorrow is going to be a very, very interesting game. And I think it's very important. I think BBM said in his press conference, he understands from talking to supporters how important this game is tomorrow. So I hope we can get give a good account of ourselves, particularly for the fact that we are playing a team who are just about holding their own in the league above. So it's a good test of where we are. Yeah,
and it's bizarre, really. Like 4 or 5 years ago, who would have thought? Who would have thought Wrexham would be in a higher division than us? I never would have seen that coming. For the benefit of Aled, Steve, I'm take a sip of water here. Because you read your big moment's coming out. You didn't know anything about this, but what you got to do now? You got to talk Aled through the John Buchanan score a goal against Wrexham. Yeah, can you talk us through it? Just give it a bit of background on it.
Pouring rain at the race course, or whatever they're calling it now, and the away end was open because they're redeveloping the stand behind the goal, not the Kop end, but the other end. But basically, two Cardiff players went for the ball together. John Buchanan hit it, low trajectory right into the bottom corner, and none of the cocky celebrations down. He just run away, pure joy, with his arms in the air. Does that sum it up?
Very nice. I was thinking of the one at Ninian as well. They went there, the 35-yarder or 45-yarder.
That was Swansea.
Oh, Swansea, of course. Yeah, I enjoyed them both for similar reasons. Yeah.
The one at Ninian, though, was the 3-2 FA Cup winner.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Sorry. Yeah.
But the one that Steve was talking about, I was up there that day as well, so through, and I can remember it was on Match of the Day that night. And Cardiff were on Match of the Day. So you remember we were all racing back in our cars to see it on Match of the Day. We had to get back for 10 o'clock or whatever. But the 3-2 cup game, that was something else, wasn't it? That was an amazing one. But that was probably
What a
the only
match.
time that John Buchanan tapped a goal in, wasn't it? Because it was
Yes. Yeah.
Wrexham had just made it 2-2 in added time, and we were 2-0 up, weren't we? In
Yes.
the,
Yeah, we were.
the closing minute, and they scored 2 right at death to go to 2-2, and then we literally from kickoff we went straight back down their end, and I think he tapped it in for about 3 or 4 yards. It's the only time I ever. And you only ever scored 25, 35-yard goals, you know. So the fact you tap one in from a couple of yards was something
We'd
else.
take one of them right now. Somebody, you know, a Lewis Wing for Reading who can hit them from 40, 35 yards out. And, you know.
Yeah, sorry, I
somebody
mixed it. I
did,
just remember that
John
amazing
Buchanan
match.
actually. I saw him hit that one at Ninian, and I was in the grandstand, and I had the pillar in the way, so all I could see was his foot come out from behind the pillar. I couldn't actually see him, but his foot came out, and the ball just flew in.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. They really, even now, to think he even went for goal. It's crazy goal. Yeah. But talking about Wrexham, Steve, as well. I remember what was the name of that lad who played up front? Bennett, wasn't it?
Gary Bennett.
Bennett,
he always had lots of banter, shall we say, inverted commas, with the crowd. Yeah.
You're
and
right.
for me,
Steve,
it always mattered. Playing Wrexham to me always mattered, and for me, it is. You know, it's a one end to the other, maybe puts even more in it in a way. For me, it's a Welsh derby. That's what it is.
Absolutely. I remember that Gary Bennett. Remember when we played Manchester City in the FA Cup when Nathan Blake scored the winner. The game before that was home to Wrexham, and they fair play to them. They didn't miss that trick in that you had to go to the Wrexham home game to qualify for a ticket for the Manchester City game. And Gary Bennett gave Wrexham the lead at the Canton end, and then he ran behind the goal, giving it some to Cardiff fans in the Canton stand. But of course, we won that game 5-1.
Is that the one he got sent up as well?
Yes, I think it was. Yes,
He was.
yes.
Oh yeah, I remember
that.
that. Yeah. That was a good one. That's a golden Indian memory. It's something about him, Ben. He's just a player everybody loved to hate. I'll have more comments coming in about the Wrexham game. Going to be interesting. Won't be scared of Cardiff, and Cardiff as the bigger club. I mean, they will want to put one over on us, won't they? And it's a big game for Wrexham, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a big game for both teams, and I think it's probably not a derby, but it's a rivalry game. Being two Welsh teams, North v South as well. I don't know about you guys. I think of North Wales as kind of not really Wales, and I know they speak.
Oh, come on, you're taking the stage too far now.
Yeah. I know. It's Merseyside, just today. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I know there's more Welsh spoken up there and whatever. But
we got fans in North Wales.
Maybe if there's a motorway up there and it was quicker to get up there, you know, we might have more.
We got trains and everything.
But I've only been to North Wales once, and it wasn't great. So I don't know. It's for me. I don't know how I feel about Wrexham. Obviously, I am pleased for them in that I think Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney have done what they're doing in the right way. I think they've really bought into the town and the club, and they've tried to make it a better place. And they've done it gradually. And so I am happy for them, and I do wish them well. But I do really, really want to beat them.
You're not very convincing there, Alan, but I'll accept that. How big a game is it for you, Nigel? I know it's a cup match, but it's a big one in a way,
I think it's big purely because it's on ITV. It's on national TV tomorrow, isn't it? And that's incredible in itself. That in the last 16 of this cup, and the game, there are a couple of big ties, and the game they've chosen is Wrexham and Cardiff. I think it's on. In fact, it's on ITV and Sky Sports Live tomorrow. I think just adds that extra dimension that we will want to show how far we've come with BBM, and hopefully get back to sort of performance we put in against Burnley in the last round, where we were fantastic and those young players stood up and got counted that night. So we're hoping we can do it again tomorrow. For me, I'd much rather see a win tomorrow than on Saturday at Peterborough in the FA Cup. And then if we can get a result tomorrow, give the boys a rest for a week, and we get back to business the following week. I think that's what we need to look at doing. But if we can beat Wrexham and also make the quarterfinals of this cup, that would be fantastic, wouldn't it? But yeah, I want us to put one over on Wrexham. I always do.
Yeah, and I think Steve, BBM seems to be given the impression he's going to put out a fairly strong side, and he does seem to do that in the cup matches generally, doesn't he? He does seem to go for it. Which is nice,
yes. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night to see how far we've come under BBM. I've got to slightly disagree with you, though, Nigel. Living where I live, I know a lot more Peterborough fans than Wrexham fans. I want us to win both games. I want us to win every game.
Of course.
You off to Peterborough on the weekend as well, Steve?
Yes. It's the first time. Just a bit of an aside on stats. The first time ever I've had an electronic e-ticket on my phone for an away game for Saturday.
Wow. That's
And it's
impressive.
Just Peterborough to be leading the way with technology.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's not the most modern of grounds.
No, it's about the only thing there is modern there, isn't it?
Martin Ryan made a good point there that the trains have to go into England to reach North Wales. So maybe it's not in Wales after all, Alex. Maybe you're right.
I'm going to cop some flack there because obviously there's probably more Welsh spoken in North Wales, but I don't know. I just feel there's just not that connection, is there? Really, with North Wales and South Wales.
We all know that their derby is Chester and ours is Bristol. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. I think a big shout, further to your point, though, Alan, I think we've got to give a big shout out to the Holyhead Blues, Hef and all his mates who are always at the away games, who I first met again, it'll be in my book. In 1982, I first met the Holyhead Blues on Birmingham New Street Station going to Walsall. And they said, it was quite clear, I always remember it, they said they used to follow Liverpool and Everton, but they had far more fun following Cardiff City.
And there you go.
And again, going back to your documentary, Alan, because of the stories that the club has to tell. What I wanted to ask you about, though, being a younger person, considerably, that's in brackets, but I think it was 2007 or something like that. I think you said you first started watching City. That
was my first game, game.
So do you remember your first game?
Yeah, Norwich at home. Paul Parry scored. Cameron Jerome was playing. Neil Alexander was in goals. Darren Pearce. I think Chopra was there then. It was in March. Yeah, 1-0, Paul Parry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was the day Wales rugby played Italy and we lost. I remember that. It was like the beginning of the downfall of Welsh rugby in that period, and then I think the next year then we won the Grand Slam again. So
yeah, I don't really follow that game, but it's nice. People do, so all good and all the rest of it. I had a free ticket once to watch Wales play England at Twickenham because my then girlfriend she managed to blag me a ticket. I was trying to sell it on the way to the ground, but and I remember at the end of the game we beaten Wolves away 4-1. I was like, that was the only time of the day.
That was a good day.
yeah.
I think the game of rugby's got worse now over the years, so I wouldn't be picking now to get into it, even if you wanted to.
A comment here for you, very much just for you, Alan, here from Jeff Mansfield. North Wales is more Welsh than Cardiff, so have that one both barrels,
Maybe so, yeah, maybe so. Not for me, but there you go.
Fair enough. Should we? Which for you, Steve? Actually, is the? I think I know the answer, but I don't know. Well, which to you matters more? I know we're more advanced in the game against Wrexham, but we don't want to go out the first round of the FA Cup particularly either, do we? FA Cup's kind of special tournament. You got your thoughts on the weekend as well?
I think from a Cardiff City point of view, the fact that, as Nigel said, it's on ITV1 tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of people watching us tomorrow who don't often get to see us. So I think tomorrow is important to give a very, very good account of ourselves. I'd quite like to guess in both. I want to be in the third round draw for the FA Cup because it's one of those iconic things, watching that third round draw when the top two divisions come in. I want to be in that. I really want to... I think it's more important tomorrow to give a good account of ourselves, to show the progress we made compared to last season. I think that's even it should to be shot down. Even more important to me than the result is the performance we put in tomorrow night.
A nice comment there as well. The Cardiff away fans going to be so loud on ITV. Can't wait. So let's we look forward to it. We'll spin around for a prediction as we do, as I lead into Nigel on predictions for the two away at Wrexham and then away at Peterborough. It reminds me of the FA Cup. When you remember the match today, they used to show that Peter Sayer goal at the beginning.
Yeah, against Spurs. Yeah, won't beat them. Tomorrow, I think it's going to be tight. And I'll go for 2-1 to City, or possibly it's going to be a 1-1 in penalties.
I think it's going to be a draw, and I think it's going to go to penalties. I think.
Yeah.
Tomorrow,
I don't see it's getting turned over.
Peterborough on the weekend, Nigel, as well.
Peterborough, it'll be interesting to see what side he goes with, because I think he's going to go strong tomorrow, and I do think he potentially rested some players like Chambers, Robinson, Capaccio with tomorrow night in mind. It did feel like that a little bit, so I'm sure he's going to go strong tomorrow. Probably not so strong at the weekend, but it's an opportunity for those other players then, isn't it? So Peterborough, no great shakes. So yeah, let's get a 1-0 there too.
Okay, Steve.
Nigel kind of stole my thunder a bit. I'm going for a 2-1 win tomorrow night as well, and I think I'm going to go 2-0 on Saturday.
Okay, nice one. Excellent. I'll be right. Aled.
I think tomorrow will be a good game. I think it'll have a derby feel to it. So I'll go 2-2 and we'll win on penalties. Saturday, I read today that Peterborough apparently might be appointing Luke Williams. I don't know if that's happened.
Yeah, really?
Already,
Wow.
Yeah. So they got him lined up. So new manager bounce potentially if he's on the touchline on Saturday.
Well,
so I'll go for 1-1 and win on penalties again. 2 penalties.
That'll be interesting.
2 outs in
it's a weird thing to say, but I'll say as we had you on the show, I've got to say, mixed feelings on that Luke Williams, Swansea connections and all that. I personally admire him for, when he moved out of football, being so kind of, just taking the job as a baggage handler at Bristol Airport. Good on him. Good on him for just bringing some cash in for his family and having a normal job. Nothing bad to say about that at all. But I'm sure others have plenty. But anyway, we'll leave it there for now. Let's hope the predictions are right. Thanks for a great show. Well done, Aled. Brilliant debut on the show, and we'll see you all again soon. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. Cheers.
This channel is powered by an incredible membership community on Cardiff City World and patreon.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Becoming a member unlocks exclusive rewards from early access to live event tickets, bonus content, and even the occasional inside transfer scoop when we get it. But more importantly, it allows us to bring you top quality Cardiff City content 7 days a week. Across those 7 days, we're talking match previews, exclusive interviews, instant match reactions, the breakdown podcast, tactical deep dives, the spotlight series, Bluebirds Rewind, Academy Focus, and just so much more. Led by myself, backed by an army of passionate Cardiff City fans, this is content created by fans for fans. Balanced, professional, and 100% all about the club we all love. If you enjoy what we do, then join the community today and support what we are doing as we help to keep Cardiff City World flying high.